Hello, thanks for joining. My name is Beth Brennan Montgomery, and I am a mental health intern with Mary's Center's school-based mental health program. Today, we will be discussing ways in which you can support your child or your children and your entire family with positive discipline as well as home structure throughout the coronavirus situation. So for the next 20 to 30 minutes, we'll discuss in more detail adjusting to the situation we're in right now with COVID-19, as well as how it's affecting your family. And we'll outline some ways in which you can create structure with your children that will distress home life and provide recommendations for dealing with behavior changes when rewarding and praising isn't enough. So it's important to acknowledge that this is an upsetting time for all of us because there are many, many unknowns, and it's difficult to plan and to live when we don't know what's happening day to day. So this has the entire family stressed because everyone is at home, everyone is out of sync and does not have their normal schedule. This is causing some tension and stress within the family. So it's okay to feel concerned about the situation, a little worried and unsettled. You're not alone. But just like with any change, it takes time to really settle into a new routine. So it's important to look at the impacts that coronavirus has on the family. So first, parents and caregivers stress. Children are at home now 24 hours, 7 days a week. You may not be trained as a teacher, but are required to make sure that your children are following the curriculum that the teachers are giving them and doing the work that's been assigned. You also may have to work from home because you have a job on top of taking care of your children and your household. Or you may unfortunately have lost your job or have noticed a decrease in hours that you're getting from work because things have shut down or are temporarily opened and for limited time. So there's a lot of stress surrounding financial concerns as well as your loss of social supports. You're not able to see friends and family outside of the ones that live within the home. But children are also stressed during this time. You know, there's a change, significant change in their daily schedule. We know that children really thrive with structure, so this is very difficult for them to be sort of uprooted out of their Monday through Friday school schedule. There's boredom and confusion, as well as a loss of social supports on their side. They're not seeing friends, they're not out at recess or after school playing in the playground. There's also loss of emotional supports, such as teachers at school and social workers. And there's an increased use of electronics. So oftentimes children might be taking part in mindless eating. They'll have very lazy or sedentary days that might also lead to low motivation in the child. So let's look at ways to best structure and distress your home life. The first thing that's really important is that you readjust your expectations. So things that are happening now in life are not and will not be the same as they were before coronavirus impacted the United States and Washington, D.C. So it's important that you accept the situation as it is. This will help you embrace it and then deal with it and moving forward. So it's really important just to acknowledge that there's a big change and that it's difficult but that you can move forward with these tools. And one of the tools that I think is really, really important for families with children and young children is to create a daily schedule. Like I said, children really thrive with structure. So you could just take a large piece of white paper and some markers and get the family together. You can use brown paper bags from the grocery store and write out what the schedule would look like and take into account your child's stage of development. That might mean, do they need to take naps? Do they need more rest because they're younger? You know, really set appropriate expectations. Is there enough time for sleep and for breaks? Is there outdoor time, because children do need the fresh air and a release of the energy that they do have. And you want to make sure you plan transitions from one activity to another. For example, you really want to warn your child when there's, say, 10 minutes left of an activity. Let them know that the activity has 10 minutes left, and then at 5 minutes, and then at 2 minutes. These warnings are really important to help the child understand that the activity will be ending. It'll be time to clean up and transition to the next activity. And then importantly here, you really want to consider your own work schedules. What is it that you need to do? And how can you best schedule the children's time that will coincide and make your life easier as well while at home? So I put together an example of an at-home schedule that you can use. You can use for examples, you can create your own, adjust it, but you'll see that there are times in the day for meals, learning and schoolwork, fresh air. There's also time for play, which is very important, and rest and relaxation. But what you want to do in tandem or alongside creating this daily schedule is to include a reward system. And you want to explain the reward system to your children. You want to reward often or regularly, especially when you have younger children. If you have a child who's young and they start their day out at 6 in the morning, receiving a reward at 7 p.m. in the evening really feels like a long time, and it's difficult for them to sustain good behavior perhaps without praise and reward more often throughout the day. But the more you reward, this will really motivate your children and your child to behave well. And you want to be consistent. So really follow through with the consequences that you've outlined with this reward system right away. So for example, you could say, if you don't put your dirty clothes in the laundry basket right now, you will not get your prize this evening. So there's really an association between the action and the task of the child and what will happen if that is not fulfilled. And I've added here the section 7 to 8 o'clock p.m. where we're calling prize time. So you can see that if the child has a good day and follows through with their tasks, they're rewarded with whatever it is that you agree as the appropriate reward. And it's on the bottom there in the highlighted yellow row. And you know, it's okay to allow your child to miss 2 of, say, the 12 things in the schedule here. You know, they can't be perfect, but it's important that you let them know that there's wiggle room and that you're understanding of them to make mistakes, since we're all human. So your daily schedule and your reward chart is to document your child's behavior, ability to follow instruction, transition between tasks and activities. But they'll need your guidance throughout the day for staying on task and completing chores and any activities that are listed. So you really want to focus on the positives. It's a great way to help you stay calm but firm with your child during this adjustment period at home, and supporting them in their success and following the home structure. This is really meant for them as well. So by this, I mean behavior that gets attention strengthens, right? So if you focus on negative behavior, even with negative attention, that will strengthen that. So you really want to focus, on the behavior, the positive behavior, because it will continue. The child will associate the praise with the positive behavior and follow through. Always praise your child when they're doing well. There's a way that you can, what they call is active ignoring your child when they're not behaving well to a certain extent. For example, if they're whining or following you around the house, you can ignore them versus try to react to it, where the child would probably stop on their own after they're not getting the attention that they're looking for. But the important thing with praising is that these labeled praises, we call them labeled praises, they're the best way to demonstrate to the child their positive behavior. So an example of a labeled praise would be something like, "Thank you for playing quietly while I spoke to the doctor on the phone." You're explaining to the child what it is that they did that you're praising that was good behavior, as opposed to say, "You did such a good job." There's really no explanation of what it is that they did. And also you want to model the type of behavior you want your child to have, right? So remember, yelling can cause yelling and hitting causes hitting. So you really want to focus on controlling yourself, not the child, and make sure that you're emulating the behavior that you also want your child to emulate. And give your child the benefit of the doubt. If he's hungry, you might think, if he's upset, you might think, is he hungry? Is he not feeling well? Is he hitting his sister in a desperate attempt for attention? So really try to think about where your child is coming from when acting out or misbehaving. Another way to focus on the positives is to use positive language. Like I said, you can be firm and strong in how you speak to your child. Raising your voice can startle or scare children. They'll be less likely to feel relaxed and behave when they feel startled. But you can be firm. And for example, instead of saying, "Don't touch," you can say, "Hands to yourself, please," or "Don't run, walk, please," "Stop yelling, quiet voices, please." So there are ways that you can turn something around into a way that's said in a positive manner to the child. And then always try to offer your child options and choices. It helps them feel like they have some control, and this leads to them feeling better, a little bit more independent, that they have some control over the situation. So if they have homework to do and then they have to clean their room, try letting them to decide which one they'd like to do first. If you want them to do a household chore, give them 2 to choose from. You could also redirect here. Children don't often hear no or don't on the first time, and they tend to tune that out. So you can offer a positive behavior to replace misbehavior. is another method that you can use. And then finally, we're going to talk about making deposits. For example, kindness, unconditional love, or patience to your child's emotional piggy bank. So you might ask, what's an emotional piggy bank? It basically reflects one's relationship or connection with another. So for example, it's an account of trust instead of money, or an account based on how safe one feels with another person. So when you make deposits by doing things that build trust in a relationship, this is something positive. This is a credit you give to a child, and you do this proactively. But we make withdrawals by reactively doing things that decrease trust, and we'll get into some examples of what each of these means. But basically, the current balance in your child's emotional piggy bank determines how well two people can communicate, problem solve. So if you're struggling to communicate with your child, you may need to ask yourself, do I need to make more deposits? So deposits are positive credits to your emotional piggy bank, or to the emotional piggy bank of your child. And when deposits are greater than withdrawals in a bank, the parent and caregiver and the child will develop trust with one another. So here are a few examples of how you can make deposits to your child's piggy bank. Apologize when you make a mistake. That's modeling positive behavior. Listen to your child. Spend one-on-one time with your child. Greet them as they come home. Acknowledge them. Attend their activities. Right now it's difficult because so many things are closed, but you could read books with them, or if they really like to do art, you can ask to draw with them or paint with them, or I know you're helping them with their schoolwork, but what is it that they like to do that you could do with them at home or in your yard or outside, where it's safe for you to be socially distancing and protecting yourself from contracting the virus. Be kind, patient, and compassionate. Help your child problem solve. Laugh with your child. And keep your promises. These are all ways that you can make deposits or to credit your child's emotional piggy bank. And so for withdrawals, we want to acknowledge that parents and caregivers will make mistakes and withdraw from their child's emotional piggy bank unintentionally. It happens. But the first step to knowing how to build up a supply or a reserve of deposits in your child's piggy bank is to know the difference between the two and what they are and how you can positively contribute to your child's emotional piggy bank. So for example, withdrawal might be checking your phone or interrupting your child when he or she is speaking to you, or nagging, yelling at your child, criticizing them. Being sarcastic is another way to make a withdrawal, and talking about them negatively to others. So let's remember, this is a very stressful time for families. It's important that we continue to acknowledge that to help us understand why we're feeling overwhelmed and stressed differently than we normally do or did before the coronavirus. It's just important to acknowledge that because it is a hard time for us. And so in these hard times, like the one we're in now, parents and caregivers may discipline their child by spanking when we don't mean to or want to. And in many US states, like in Washington, D.C., It is not considered illegal to spank your child with an open hand. But remember what we talked about modeling behavior. Hitting usually prompts hitting. If you hit your child is going to want to hit when they feel a certain way. And research has shown and does show that children who are spanked or physically disciplined suffer negatively, both in childhood and it can continue on into adulthood. And some examples of what that might look like is aggressive behavior, mental health issues, substance abuse, impaired cognition, stunted emotional growth. So there are negative effects to physically disciplining your child, and this is something that's important to understand in general, and also during a time when everyone is in the house and there's a lot going on and the entire family is just off their schedules. So what do we do when our rewards that we talked about, the praise and rewards from our daily schedule and the deposits that we're putting into our child's emotional piggy bank aren't enough? Parents and caregivers have the opportunity to influence their child's emotional development by coaching them to become more aware of their emotions and needs and to regulate their feelings more easily. So the best way to help your child manage their emotions is through co-regulation or coaching. Providing support or coaching helps your child become, like I said, aware of how they're feeling, aware of what they need and what they need to ask for. And this will allow them to become more emotionally intelligent and available. And it shows, the research, that children of parents and caregivers who use emotion coaching function much better in many aspects of their life, in school, socially. They have physical and mental health. Overall is better. So it really goes to show that this type of support from a parent to a child can go a long way. So there are 5 steps to follow, fairly straightforward. And the first 3 are really the most important. The first is you want to attend to the feeling. So you want to be present with your child's experience by approaching the situation calmly, but acknowledging how they feel. You could say something like, I see that something is up. It's really as simple as that. Next, you want to name it. You really want to put the feelings and the emotions into words that you think your child is experiencing. Oftentimes, it's difficult for children to be able to identify what it is that they're feeling, and it's helpful for them to hear, you look sad. Step 3 is really the most important and yet most challenging step of them all. You're basically saying, I understand you and your unique experience. So you really want to put yourself in your child's situation and understand the experience as they are experiencing it. You want to speak what we say, speak the unspoken. You say the truth that you both know, but neither of you wants to say. I can understand why you might feel sad. It's hard to be separated from your friends and having your school closed on your birthday. So validating your child really, it involves putting yourself in your child's shoes. You know, it's important to do this while accepting, allowing, and validating that the emotions of your child and you are really different from what you expected they feel or how they're feeling, or even if it's hard for you to understand how they're feeling. It's still important that you validate their feelings. And you really want to resist looking on the bright side of things or trying to explain it to your child using logic or analysis. You know, trying to help them see the situation how you see it. But if you can do it by validating the emotion and being present, you'll be showing your loved one that you understand them and their unique experience. You know, and this will really improve your relationship with them, encourage them to keep coming to you when things get tough, and help them move forward from the emotional challenge. So step 4 is meeting the need. In order to do this, you really want to go back to the basics of feelings. And you want to know that every emotion has its corresponding need from the environment. So sadness, you want to soothe. Anger, you want to find positive ways to express the emotion and feelings. Fear, you want to protect them from danger. And anxiety, help confront the situation with love and support. So along the same lines, something you could say is, this is upsetting for you and for your friends and teachers who want to celebrate your birthday with you. Come here and let me give you a hug. And you're really meeting the need. He's feeling sad and upset. And then the final step, 5, is problem solving. And the model here says that if steps 1 through 3 work well alone, they often reduce the power of pain, and oftentimes problem solving isn't needed. But when it is needed, it's communicating to your child, I will help you to sort this out. But this comes after steps 1 through 3. And something that you could do in the situation, or an example of something that you could say is, why don't we plan a fun birthday party at home with games, a movie, your favorite food? We'll have a great time. And then once coronavirus is over, we can celebrate your day again outside of the house. So you're really coming up with a way to problem solve and to figure out, what can you do now with the situation? And then offer a solution for what we could do after coronavirus, and celebrate in a way that your child might want to celebrate now, but they can't because of social distancing. So just some practical skills for parents and caregivers. As I said, step 3, the skill of validation is critical. It calms the brain. It makes the other more open and flexible to comfort, reassurance, and problem solving, even redirection and limits. There will be times, though, when you notice that once you've started to validate your loved one or your child, they may react confused or upset if it's a way that you don't typically respond to them. But that's okay, because these reactions are normal and they're to be expected. And then there are some helpful phrases that you can use to get started in saying validating statements out loud. Communicating with your child with these may feel unnatural at first, but it's like exercising a muscle, and it does get easier with time the more that you do it. So I do want to say that you're doing an amazing job. You care so much about your family. You're a wonderful parent, caregiver, and watching this video really does reflect that. And I want you to know that this is a difficult time for parents, and it's important that you take care of yourself first. You know, you need to do that in order to be there for anybody else, your child, your family, friends. So especially during coronavirus and with the many demands that are put on parents and caregivers right now, please take time for yourself and be kind to yourself. It's very important. And often we become stronger and grow closer to our loved ones in difficult times. So remember that despite the coronavirus situation and all of its frustrating aspects, we may not see it now, but you and your family are learning new skills from it, like resilience and tolerating uncertainty, dealing with boredom, or confronting boredom and doing something about it. You're becoming more independent and creative and really so much more. So keep the focus on the positive. You really are doing an amazing job. And I want to thank you so, so much for attending this video and for joining me today. All the best.